says here. Now listen to this. He affirms that the first fact is the complete program was positively not written on Earth, that it's a verified fact. They have found this gene that is consistent with human beings. This is the Nephilim gene, a mixture of the fallen angels, the men of renown, the mighty men, and humans. He says the genes themselves are not enough to explain evolution. There must be something more in the game. Yeah, he's missing it. All he has to do is read the instruction manual starting in Genesis 6 and he'll find it. But that's the problem with science. They decide that that's all a bunch of hooey. The explanation is right there. If they would just go read it, there's the explanation. Sooner or later, Professor Chang says, we have to come to grips the unbelievable notion that every life on Earth carries genetic code for this extraterrestrial cousin on the evolution is not what we think it is. Evolution is not what we think it is because they found these genes that he admits right here they cannot, not only not, they know it's alien to regular human DNA. This is confirmation that this Nephilim gene was passed on from one of Ham's wives right into who we are now. And before I go on with this, let me ask a critical question. And if you didn't listen to the last program, come to the web page at Blog Talk, and all of my shows are archived there. Go back and listen to our last show on aliens, and you're going to find the story from the very beginning, from Genesis 6, about how all of this stuff came about, how these genes were introduced into mankind, which was the reason for the flood. You need that information. Because he admits himself, let me say it again, we've come to grips with the unbelievable that every life on Earth carries genetic code for this extraterrestrial cousin. Evolution is not what we think it is. They have found the Nephilim gene, and they're trying to pass it off as something else. Now, they go on to talk about looks. What was some of the result from the Nephilim gene? We had giants. We had people. Why were they called men of renown? Not just because of their size, but because of their strength, because they were genetically modified from what God created. So here's how they're passing it off. They're saying that Human Genome Project discovery implications are associated with human-looking extraterrestrials. But the implications of these scientific finds would reinforce claims by other scientists and observers having contact with off-world human-looking extraterrestrials. We also talked about that in our last program. The off-world human-looking extraterrestrials have been claimed to have provided some of the genetic material for human evolution, and that many of these extraterrestrials have allowed some of their personnel to incarnate as star seeds on Earth in human families. These star seeds, or star children, or star people are described by Brad and Francis Steiger as individuals whose souls were formerly incarnated on the worlds of other star systems, then traveled to Earth and decided to incarnate here in order to boost the spiritual evolutionary development of humans. Here again, they're trying to mix their personal opinion and fact. They say most of humanity would consider this group of extraterrestrials to be benevolent, as described by contactees like George Aminsky. Each one of these people explained the nature of their voluntary interactions with the human-looking extraterrestrials. These contactees often provide physical evidence in the form of photographs, film, or witnesses of their contact with extraterrestrial extraterrestrial races. The most extensively documented and researched contactee is Edward Billy Meyer, who provided such physical evidence for these investigators. A lot of people are going to say, oh, these are aliens, the alien greys, poor little aliens. Sorry about that. We know what this is. And, you know, I believe this is a prelude for these lying signs and wonders that when this false prophet and the Antichrist show these signs and wonders that are going to fool all of humanity and fool even the elect, if it were possible. This better be good if they're going to fool the entire world. Wouldn't this fool the entire world if they brought aliens and introduced them as aliens? Well, they're making the argument and calling these Nephilim ancient astronauts. Ancient astronauts. Have you ever seen the movie The Gods Must Be Crazy? When an airplane flew overhead and dropped a Coke bottle into a tribe out in a tropical forest who had never seen anything like that. They'd never seen an airplane. They'd never seen a Coca-Cola bottle. And they seen this as a sign from their God. Their God was an airplane that was flying over. And their gift from their God was this Coke bottle. Well, when they describe these ancient astronauts, let's listen to what they say. They say, indeed, ancient astronaut writers believe that the race of intelligent extraterrestrial beings visited and or colonized Earth in the remote past, whereby they upgraded the primitive Homo erectus by means of genetic engineering to create the human race as we know it, Homo sapiens. They just about got it right there. They just read the full details in the instruction manual. These guys claim to be smart. Evidence for this idea is found in the improbability of Homo sapiens emerging so suddenly, according to the principles of orthodox Darwinism, in the myth of ancient civilizations, which describe human-like gods coming down from the heavens and creating mankind in their own image. Homo sapiens is thus regarded as hybrid beings, incorporated a mix of terrestrial genes from Homo erectus and extraterrestrial genes from an ascribed race of gods. There you go. At last, they say it without saying it. They just described what happened in Genesis 6. That one in. That's just a tremendous admission. Now please, pay attention to this. Evidence for this idea is found in the improbability of Homo sapiens emerging so suddenly. Well, they finally admit that. According to the principles of orthodox Darwinism, the myths of ancient civilizations which described human-like gods coming down from the heavens and creating mankind in their own image. Homo sapiens is thus regarded as hybrid beings, the Nephilim, incorporating a mix of terrestrial genes from Homo erectus and extraterrestrial genes from an ascribed race of God, the Nephilim. This would account for this junk DNA, or what they call junk DNA. They're calling it junk because they can't figure out what it is. Read the instruction manual. Prior to the modern space travel and genetics, this theory for the origins of mankind could not have been conceived. Even now, in the 21st century, there may be people who would regard it as science fiction. However, in the light of the problems with the orthodox theory of human evolution, the idea of a genetic intervention by an intelligent human-like species who themselves evolved on another planet or another plane is a more credible time frame, does require to be taken seriously as a potential solution to the mystery. Genesis 6, boys, read it. It is the solution to the mystery. It is not a mystery. The most famous exponents of the ancient astronaut interventions are the Swiss writer Erich von Däniken. And here's what he says. It's represented by academics from Exopolitics Group. Listen to this. Dr. Michael E. Sheila is one of the founders of the Exopolitics movements, which seeks an open and informed dialogue on and with extraterrestrials toward the affirmation of global democracy and the equality of living of mankind as socially responsible beings in the universe. Now, did you doubt that the one world government wasn't going to come up in this somewhere? This is exactly what I said from the very beginning of the program. There is an agenda behind this. They are seeking dialogue and with extraterrestrials toward the affirmation of global democracy. They say there's an extensive number of extraterrestrial races that are known by various research institutes and agencies to be currently interacting with Earth and with the human population. Dr. Sheila is also the author of Exopolitics, The Political Implications of the Extraterrestrial Presence. He's held full-time academic appointments at the Australian National University and American University, Washington, D.C., has a Ph.D. in government. Imagine that. From the University of Queensland, Australia. A Ph.D. in government. And he's telling us about extraterrestrials and one world government. I'm shocked. During his professional academic career, he's been best known for organizing a series of citizen diplomacy initiatives for the East Timor conflict funded by the U.S. Institute of Peace and for the Ford Foundation. He's also the founder of the Exopolitics Institute, a chief editor of the Exopolitics Journal, and convener of the Extraterrestrial Civilization and World Peace Conference. In a 1998 interview, Clifford Stone, a retired U.S. Army sergeant who served in the Army for 22 years and allegedly participated in operations to retrieve crashed extraterrestrial ships and extraterrestrial biological entities, revealed there are a variety of extraterrestrial races known by various institutions and agencies. He also elaborates the most compelling testimonies of these different extraterrestrial races comes from whistleblowers such as Sergeant Stone, and also contactees who have had direct physical contact with extraterrestrials and communicated with them. So apparently had a conversation while they were getting their anal probe. Dr. Saylor further notes that Master Sergeant Bob Dean had a 27-year distinguished career in very senior areas of the military, indicating that among these known extraterrestrial groups looked as much like us and could sit next to you on a plane or in a restaurant and you'd never know the difference. Well, of course you wouldn't know the difference. According to Alex Collier, who claims to be a contactee, a variety of extraterrestrial races have provided genetic material for the human experiment. He indicates that Earth humans are a product of extraterrestrial genetic manipulation. Really? The Nephilim. And processors of a vast gene pool consisting of many different racial memory banks, also consisting of at least 22 different races. I guess he knows this from sitting down and having lunch with them.